What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Stat Sheet Sports, and today we have Clemson versus NC State preview. But before we get started, make sure you guys like and subscribe, comment your thoughts and opinions below. Check out the podcast that I do with Chicago Sports Network, College Football Roundup. Check out the website for other fun stuff. And for this Clemson NC State game, I will be going to the game, and we'll have some footage from not only the game but also game day. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. So to get started, Clemson coming in 4-0 after the big double overtime win against Wake Forest last week, 51-45. NC State also coming in at 4-0 after beating UConn last week, 41-10. NC State not really banged up a whole lot. Clemson with really only one major injury, and that being Andrew Makuba at safety. Sheridan Jones and Malcolm Green, the corners, will both be back this week. And Trenton Simpson's fine from whatever happened to him in the Wake Forest game. Got a little stinger there right before the end of regulation, but he'll be good to go here against NC State. So just looking at some stats here that I think are really important for this game. Total defense, NC State is 13th in total defense. Clemson is 48th. NC State has a pretty strong defense here, but one of the things I look at, though, with that stat of them being 13 is they haven't really played any good offenses. East Carolina, not a great offense, not a bad offense, but they're a mediocre offense. Charleston Southern, terrible offense. They're FCS. To me, they kind of offset with Furman for Clemson that Clemson played. And then you play Texas Tech, not a good offense. They didn't even have their starting quarterback, Tyler Shue, in that game. NC State won that one 27-14. And then UConn, again, terrible offense, ranked in the bottom, I think they're like 120-something. And total offense, beat them 41-10. You look at Clemson, they played Georgia Tech, not a good offense. Not as good as Texas Tech or East Carolina. East Carolina is probably the best offense that NC State has played, especially when you look at the fact that Texas Tech didn't have their starting quarterback, Tyler Shue, against NC State. Whereas Clemson is ranked 48th. I wish I could see the rankings before this past week to see how much Clemson dropped because of the Wake Forest game. But Wake Forest is better than any offense that NC State has played by far. And Louisiana Tech isn't a terrible offense, but they aren't a good one either. They're better than UConn, but they're not as good as Texas Tech and East Carolina. So I thought that was I think that'll be a struggle for the Clemson offense a little bit, it'll be a bit of a struggle, but their offense is better than NC State's offense, which neither one of these teams have really played a good defensive team. Red zone defense, however, though, NC State is 121st in the country. Clemson is 73rd. Now NC State has only, I think, 5 red zone attempts, but they've given up touchdowns on 4 of them and a field goal on the other one. It was like a 20-yard field goal, so that isn't good, and they should have lost the East Carolina game as well. So their red zone defense obviously isn't great, but Clemson's isn't either. But NC State's doing a nice job of keeping people from getting to the to the red zone. But the one I really wanted to look at was the total offense. NC State is 69th in the country in total offense. Clemson is 40th. So Clemson's offense performing much better than NC State's offense against similar defensive teams, similar level defenses. And then you look at the passing offense, which is what really killed Clemson last week against Wake Forest. Neither one of these teams have a problem stopping the run. NC State's 10th in the country in rushing defense. Clemson is 8th. But passing defense is what really separated them. Or passing offense is what really is what killed Clemson last week against Wake Forest. Gave up a ton of yards through the air to Sam Hartman. So Wake Forest is 16th in the country in passing offense, whereas NC State is 62nd. So you're not going to have as big of a problem there. NC State's receivers are not as good in Devin Carter and Thayer Thomas as Wake Forest were in A.T. Perry and Banks, and there was another guy, Mitchell, and I can't think of his name. He's number 16, I think he is, the slot receiver for him. They have a better receiving room. I'm not saying all those guys are better than NC State's guys, but overall receiving room, Wake Forest has a better room. And Clemson is 43rd in passing offense. So they obviously pass the ball much better than NC State does. And rushing offense is much of the same. NC State is probably not going to have a run game at all in this game. They're 71st in the country in rushing offense. Meanwhile, Clemson's 8th in rushing defense. Now, Clemson is 47th in the country in rushing offense, while NC State's defense is 10th. So it will be tough for Clemson to run the ball here, but they definitely will be easier for them than it will be for NC State. And that was really the thing, too, is that I really think that Clemson is going to be able to pass the ball and run the ball effectively. I think they'll have a good, balanced offense. I don't think any of it will come easy, though. I think they're going to struggle for a little bit, but I think eventually they'll get their rhythm and get their groove, and they'll start rolling. I don't expect them to put up numbers like they did last week, obviously, against Wake Forest, but I do expect them to have a pretty good game on the offensive side of the ball, and I expect the same from the defense. And I think this rushing stat could come in to play a big effect on this game as Hurricane Ian is touching down in Florida, I believe, right now. But by game time, we're expected lots of rain here in Clemson, and so that rushing offense may be a big part of this game. Something like it was with the Notre Dame game back in 2015, and NC State also played Notre Dame in a Hurricane game in 2016. So both these teams have experienced. Dave Doran said NC State will be practicing with wet balls during practices and stuff, and I'm sure Dabo will do the same. But yeah, I thought those stats were interesting, but I think Clemson's defense is going to be better this week. Not only is NC State not as good through the air as Wake Forest, they also don't run deep shots as much as Wake Forest. Now, they might change their strategy a little bit after seeing what Wake Forest does, but Clemson is also getting 2 corners back from injury, Sheridan Jones, who's a starter, and Malcolm Green, who gets pretty good playing time as well. And they're both experienced, which is the big thing, because Jaden Lucas and Toriano Pride are both true freshmen that were out there starting last week with limited playing time before last week. So then you throw them in the starting job, it's going to be tough, and they struggled. And Nate Wiggins coming back from injury, he's a true sophomore. He struggled a little bit too, but I expect him to play a little bit better now, coming back from injury. And the main thing that killed Clemson especially was pass interference calls, and I expect that will be fixed up in practice. So looking at the FPI for ESPN, they give Clemson an 83.5% chance to win the game and NC State a 16.5% chance. Now, I don't think the FPI is ever right, so I'm not sitting here saying that. I just wanted to tell what it was, and personally, I don't agree with that. I think it's more like a 60-40 chance Clemson wins the game, 65-45, maybe even 55-45. I don't think NC State has a 16.5% chance to win the game. I think they definitely could win this game. I don't think they will, but I mean that it's not out of reason that they do win the game. So I think that was interesting. And then the last thing too with the defense is Clemson points per game is scoring 43.8 points, and NC State is scoring 36. So obviously Clemson's offense has been a lot better. So we'll see how those defenses for both these teams hold up. I expect a big game from DJ and the receivers, and a big game from Shipley as well. I think Clemson's going to pass the ball effectively. I think they'll run the ball effectively, but I don't think you're just going to come out hot like you did against Wake Forest. I think it's going to be a struggle for about a quarter and a half, and then you're going to start clicking and getting in the rhythm. And then, second half, you'll be moving the ball pretty consistently, I think. And I think NC State will start rolling too in the second half, getting some consistent drives going. But I think both these teams are going to struggle at the beginning. And once again, all this kind of just depends on what happens with the weather situation. You may end up into a game like Notre Dame where, neither team is really able to do anything with the ball really through the air, and it's a lot of the run game. And you saw in that Notre Dame game, the thing that really changed the game was Notre Dame had, I believe, 3 turnovers to Clemson's 1. Clemson may not have had any in that game, and that really changed the game. So The ability to force turnovers is definitely going to be a big factor in this game. And my score prediction, I'll go ahead and give it out. I think Clemson wins this game 27 to I'll say 17, 10-point win. Or I'll go 20. I'm going to go 27-21. I think Clemson wins by 6 at home. 7:30 on ABC under the lights. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Click that notification bell. I'm going to have a lot more content coming out. I've been kind of quiet recently, been kind of busy, but I'm going to get more content out, and I'm going to have some videos from the game and game day, and kind of like a game day vlog here for this NC State Clemson game. So if you guys enjoyed what you saw, subscribe, hit that like button, comment your thoughts on the game down below. Check out the podcast, the website, and we will see you guys next time.